Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I am Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello. Hello, Pete.
Hello, Nikki.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling a little bit, as I was telling you before we pushed the button, I'm feeling like my things are bumping up against one another today.
Because things are taking too long.
I have one thing. It's all started with my run. When I got a little lost in my own neighborhood.
Oh, you did not, really?
There was some construction. They rerouted a path, and I got a little bit turned around. And so my run took longer than I thought it would. And I got home right as I had to go into another thing. And that thing bumped right up against another thing because it was a few minutes late. And so all of my things are touching each other in my schedule, which means I stink, and I haven't shaved or showered. I'm a hot mess, and I can't believe I have to admit all that, but I am totally overwhelmed by my own stench. Well, it's more than that. I'm overwhelmed by the fact that it's one of those things. I haven't been able to think straight and stop. And so I'm really excited about our topic today because you're going to help me conquer my overwhelm. And it should only take, I don't know, what do you think, 5 steps? That's what I hear. 5 steps.
And actually with the overwhelm that you're feeling, because not all overwhelm is created equal.
Yes, that's the truth.
Okay. But what you're feeling right now, my tip number one is going to be fantastic for you.
Oh, so I can't wait. All right. I could make use of your tips. Before we do that, you should head over to takecontroladhd.com. That is the best way to make sure you don't miss an episode. Just go to that website and, subscribe to the podcast right there. You can click the blue button, sign up for the podcast, and it will be delivered unto you with grace and kindness.
Yes.
And
share it.
And please share it. Yes, share it. Spread the word. Forward it on. We would love to spread the word about this thing. But thank you so much for joining up, signing up, and making sure that you get it each week. You can also, of course, find us on Twitter and Facebook at Take Control ADHD. And you can still call us at 503-664-4ADD. 503-664-4ADD. We love those voicemails.
Yes.
All right. Help me not be overwhelmed.
Yes, that overwhelm. It's such a common word, isn't it?
Oh. I get, and I almost think we use it a little bit too flippantly.
Well, because again, not all overwhelm is created equally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a feeling, and I definitely hear it a lot with my clients. I feel it. I'm sure you felt it.
Oh, goodness.
You felt it this morning. You just talked about it. Yeah, about all your things.
My things that are touching each other. I feel like a 5-year-old at a fancy dinner.
Yeah.
All my things are touching each other.
Crazy. So tell me, I'm curious to know for you, when you feel overwhelmed, do you actually have a physical sense? Like, do you actually physically feel it in your body?
Yeah, I do. But one of the things we've talked about in the past is just, and both of us are the issues that we've faced in the past with anxiety. Mm-hmm. And for me, overwhelm is always a precursor to full-on anxiety or panic attacks. Yeah. And so I have come to terms with the experiences, or I've learned to recognize the experiences, the physiological experiences of when I'm feeling overwhelmed and when I know I need to take a step back. Now, in this case today, I'm facing schedule overwhelm.
Right.
And that is a cascading, it sort of leads to a cascading failure. And that is to say, I start thinking unconsciously and then more consciously about all the stuff I'm not going to be able to get done today as a result of my schedule being so blocked back to back to back to back with no freedom in between.
I am going to stop you right there, Mr. Wright.
Okay, because I have a point.
Oh, you do? Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt your point.
Well, no. You go. Then
well, I was going to say, because you're looking forward and you're thinking worst case scenario, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, because that is what leads to that feeling of anxiety and then eventually panic. And so I recognize my heart starts to beat faster. I recognize I have the inability or an increasing inability to form complete sentences. I speak in shorter sentences. I can feel it, and I become my patience becomes tested very, very quickly.
Yes.
And those are all the sort of things, like you feel the tension when you feel yourself about ready to snap at somebody for doing something completely benign. But to me, it becomes a personal, I take everything personally. And so that's what and I would start feeling that today if it weren't for the fact that this is my last thing. You and I are doing my last thing, and then I have a couple of hours straight where I don't have to worry about, I can breathe, I can take a break. Yeah, I don't have any more things touching my things. Yeah. And so anyway, now you.
Well, no, I think that And why I was saying, let me stop you is because I saw where you were going. You were going down a rabbit hole of like negative, oh, it's going to be awful. But the good news, like you said, is you have no more things. So you're able to kind of take a step back and see that that's not going to be the case for you today.
That's hope.
Yeah, but that's not always the case, right? Because what if you had more things, going on an average day? And so, but the first tip I have is really good for what you're experiencing. The next tips I have, I think, are really more for that overwhelm of I have this big project ahead of me. Okay, so I just want to kind of distinguish the two.
Got it.
The first thing though with your situation is you've got to breathe. You got to take a step back and breathe. Yeah. And I know that sounds like, okay, well, I'm breathing. Hello. I breathe all the time, but it's really taking those long, deep breaths before you go on to your next thing. And it's really making the priority of, okay, that may mean I may be a little bit late, like a couple minutes late, but I need to take this time for me just to kind of regroup and recenter. I did this yesterday because yesterday I had things going on. And I had a group coaching, or a coaching group, I should say, at 4:00 in the afternoon after all these other things happened previous, right? Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to be in the moment with these folks, and I really wanted to give them my best. I knew in order to do that, I had to kind of take a step back and not meditate, but just take a couple of deep breaths and just recenter. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important word. And I think we, sometimes we write off that the word meditate or meditative as being a little bit frou-frou. But the truth of the matter is, a meditative breath is one that is completely filling, right? You kind of visualize it filling your head and your chest and your limbs, and just let it sort of course through you. And getting good at that and getting good at that experience is one of the things that allows you to sort of reset physiologically. I find that if I get good at those breaths and taking that kind of 2 minutes, that I can do a little bit of an instant recharge that might buy me the next hour.
Well, and what it does too is I think it brings you back into the moment. And again, it's that mindfulness then, because then it brings you back into what I have control over right now is this moment and what I'm going to do next, not what's going to happen this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we're in that panic mode, we're thinking about how late we're going to be this afternoon, or are we going to miss something or whatever. And so it takes you back into the moment that you have control over. And that's right now. What do I need to focus on? What do I need to do? And for me, it was so helpful because then I could go into that call and really be present with them and not think about all the things I had done that day.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So that, I think, number one, breathing, taking those couple minutes just to kind of stop yourself and take those long, deep breaths really can make a difference on the degree of whatever overwhelm it is that you're feeling. Now, the next few tips I have, I think, are really more for, gosh, I have this big project, Pete, and I'm so overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. So you know what I'm going to do? Nothing.
Yeah, right. I'm going to stall.
I'm going to stall. I'm going to do everything else that seems more important than this project. And because it's too much for me. And so my second tip after you take that deep breath is get a second opinion. Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, yeah. A rational third party.
Yeah. Like, is this like a big deal? Like, get that second opinion is because what you were saying earlier is so true. With the overwhelm comes anxiety and worry, right?
Yeah.
To me,
yeah.
I agree. That's a marriage.
Yeah.
It just happens. And so getting another perspective can be really helpful. Is it true? Is what I'm really feeling and the concerns and fears, are they true? Is it real? Do I have facts to back it up? But maybe having somebody talk to me about it makes me realize that, oh, you know what, I'm probably making a bigger deal out of it than I should, or whatever,
Yeah, for me, it comes in, and I use the word overthinking a lot when I'm thinking about these things, when I'm overwhelmed on a project. It's usually because I haven't given myself enough sort of cognitive space to step back and say, am I over processing the outcome? I'm adding too much work. I'm adding too much to this and making too much work for myself. And a rational third party can come in and tell me, you're overthinking this. You're overworking it. You're overcomplicating it. Take a step back, break it down into very simple steps, and move forward one step at a time. And sometimes you just need to hear that.
You do. And you need to hear that maybe what you've already done is really good.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, because the perfectionism comes into play, right? And we're thinking, oh, it has to be perfect. But you get a second opinion. You're like, no, Pete, this is great. This is fantastic. This is exactly what I wanted. This is what I needed. And you're like, whoa, that is not what I expected.
That's right.
And so, getting that second opinion, I think, can really put things in perspective. And then what you just said, I want to piggyback off of, is breaking those projects down. And so maybe that same person that just gave you that second opinion can really help you break things down. And this is what I love about coaching, because I do this all the time with clients, is we've got this goal or we've got this project that you're working on, and it's breaking down the steps. What's the very first step that you have to take? And it could be so minimal. It could just be moving papers from the floor up to the desk. That's a step forward.
Right.
It doesn't seem important, but man, it gets you out of that procrastination cycle, and it keeps you moving forward, because now that they're on the desk, what do you need to do? Oh, I could purge a couple of papers. Oh, okay. Now you just went a little bit more forward, and you're taking things into really small pieces that are manageable, because a lot of times what I see is when people are overwhelmed, it's because they're seeing the whole thing. They're looking at the whole picture.
Oh, forest for the trees.
Yeah. That's like the second time I've heard that expression today or this week. That's funny.
It's a good one. It's an old standard.
Yeah. So I think that, really getting help with that too. Don't try to do it necessarily on your own if you're feeling overwhelmed, right? Because that's going to be hard. But get that help to help you do that. Okay, so then my next tip is really to just focus on the step that you're doing. So even though maybe you've planned out the steps, maybe you've only planned out the first 5 steps, whatever process you need to do to make it work for you, only focus on what it is that you're doing right now. So again, staying present and mindful of just what you need to do right now, and not worrying about everything else that needs to be done. And I talk about this a lot in organizing. If you remember back in some of our old episodes when we talk about organizing, just sort. Like, when you're in the sorting step, that's all you need to do is just sort. You don't have to worry about where things are going to go yet. Too many times we jump ahead before we're even done with our task at hand. So we want to stop that and just really focus on one thing. It helps with the overwhelm. It just really...
I totally agree. And I think, I just want to call out last week's episode. If you're not caught up, we talk about finding the balance between focus, energy, and time. And this was a listener question. And I think it gets to this point, right? Some of that conversation really comes back home here is not to be completely stressed out by the fact that your natural tendency is to be distracted. You've got to work that muscle to free yourself and to really be able to focus on just what is the next thing. What is the next baby step you can take?
Absolutely.
And not get overwhelmed by the whole. Yeah, that's great.
Last tip, which is actually probably even more important than breathing, I probably should have flipped this around a little bit, but that's okay, is you got to pay attention to your self-care. When you really start feeling overwhelmed, are you not taking care of yourself? And I'm willing to bet that you're probably not, because your ADHD symptoms are going to get worse when you're not taking care of yourself. You're going to be more easily distracted, more cranky, more impulsive. All of these things that are challenges are going to become worse. So we have to take care of ourselves. We got to pay attention, make yourself a priority. I did a blog post a few weeks ago about how to get exercise into your daily routine. And one of the things that was really eye-opening for me when I was talking to a friend of mine is she said, I make myself a priority. And I just sat there and I thought, wow, why am I not doing that? Why am I not making myself a priority? Start doing that. Make sure you're drinking water. Make sure you're watching your diet and you're exercising. All of these things are so important on the basic care of your ADHD. If you do these things, the overwhelm is not going to feel as bad. It's not going to be as scary. It's not going to be as big, and you're going to feel more in control.
I just want to jump on that one a little bit because I love it so much.
Yes.
And because I find that I often don't recognize that I have not been paying attention to self-care until it is too late.
Yeah.
And my wife comes to me and says, you're snoring at night again. That's a leading indicator for me when I start snoring at night. It's because I have eaten too much sugar and I wake up grumpy the next day. It's very difficult to get out of bed. And when I'm not getting restful sleep, everything else starts to fall apart. And sometimes it's not even very slowly. Sometimes it's not a gradual decay. Sometimes it's just that day, I am done. I can't focus. I can't look at people. I can't talk. I am exhausted. I'm done. And so then you do things that are equally stupid. You drink way too much. You drink a whole pot of coffee, right? You drink way too much soda, and that's just more sugar. It's more caffeine. It's more stimulant in your system that just continues to drive you down. And so I love this one. For me, there's the tool that I use is actually I track everything I eat, and that has become incredibly useful. I use a little app called Lose It. We may have talked about on the show before.
Yes. Yeah, I've used it too.
I love Lose It. It has a little barcode scanner. It lets me track everything I put into my body. And the act of tracking, it's not just about weight loss. It's just about, have I really earned what I'm about to put in my mouth? Because there's a good chance I haven't. And having that tool there is really helpful. It keeps
you accountable.
Yeah,
I think that's the great thing. And also, if you haven't done that for a while and you're feeling bad, then it's a great time to get back into that routine and that habit of, okay, maybe I need to start tracking this again and really paying attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. Well, this is just 5 different ideas. I know that there are lots of different ways that people conquer their overwhelm and their stress. And I would love to hear from you. I know Pete and I will share your stories. We'll put you on the air if you want to leave a message or send one of us an email or whatever. But I think that the more we talk about this and give more ideas out to people, more people are going to benefit. And that's what we want.
That's right. So call us, email us, find us on Facebook or Twitter. Once again, we are at Take Control ADHD on those 2 platforms, but 503-664-4ADD. How do you address overwhelm in your life and keep yourself calm and grounded? Very important stuff. I think that's it. I think that's all we have for the news.
It is.
All right.
It is.
Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to the show and for subscribing at TakeControlADHD.com. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.